There I was, in that dark, cold room, more scared than I had ever been in my life. My heart was beating so fast. I remembered stories I'd heard from other girls. They said sometimes a girl would go with a man and never come back. I thought maybe it was my turn. Maybe I was the one who wouldn't return. But I didn't want to give up. I started to pray, harder than I ever had before. Mr. Dan and Auntie Bimpy were chanting strange words, and it felt like the walls were closing in on me. I closed my eyes and prayed, asking for strength, asking for a way out. Then, suddenly, I felt something strong inside me. It was like a power I had never felt before. I opened my eyes, and with all the strength I had, I stood up. The men were holding me down, but I broke free from their grip. I didn't even think, I just ran. I didn't stop, not even when Auntie Bimpy tried to block my way. I pushed her aside and dashed out of that house as fast as I could. The night was cold and the darkness was thick, but I didn't care. I just kept running. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know what would happen next, but I knew one thing. I was free, and I wasn't going to stop. I kept running, my feet hitting the ground hard, my breath coming out in short, quick bursts. The cold air stung my skin, and my heart pounded in my chest, but I just kept going. I ran into the night, away from the darkness, away from the fear, and into the unknown. I ran until my legs couldn't carry me anymore. My body was tired, and my heart was heavy with fear. I found a clear spot on the ground and collapsed there, too exhausted to move. The night was so cold, and I had no shoes, no proper clothes to keep me warm. I tried to sleep on the street, but my mind was racing, and the fear kept me awake. As I lay there on the cold, hard street trying to rest, I suddenly felt a touch. It startled me, and I woke up, scared and confused. Standing over me was a tall, handsome man. My heart raced. I thought he might be one of the men from the dark room, and fear gripped me all over again. I tried to run, but his grip was strong. I cried out, pleading with him, "Please don't hurt me." I was so scared, so tired of running. But then, something surprising happened. The man gently covered my mouth, not to harm me, but to calm me down. "Shh, it's okay," he said in a calm voice. "I'm not going to hurt you." His words were soft, and there was kindness in his eyes that made me stop struggling. He asked me, "What are you doing out here alone on the street?" I was trembling, but somehow I managed to tell him what had happened to me, about the dark room, Auntie Bimpy, and my desperate escape. To my surprise, the man didn't look angry or upset. Instead, he told me to get up. "You're lying in front of my house. My security man told me there was a girl outside, so I came to see," he said. I was shocked. I had no idea where I had ended up. The man then asked me to come inside, to get warm and rest. I was scared, but something in me believed he was telling the truth. So, I followed him. His house was big and beautiful, and as I stepped inside, I felt a small sense of safety for the first time in a long while. Everything inside was so clean and bright, but I was still shaking, not sure what would happen next. I didn't know if I could trust him, but I had nowhere else to go. He showed me to a lovely room, much nicer than anything I had ever seen. "You can clean up here," he said gently. "Then get some rest. You're safe now." He even brought me food, a warm meal that made my stomach growl with hunger. I was so overwhelmed by his kindness that I didn't know what to say. No one had been this kind to me in so long. I wanted to thank him, but the words got stuck in my throat. Instead, I just nodded and tried to hold back the tears. That night, for the first time in what felt like forever, I slept in a warm bed. The soft blankets wrapped around me, and I felt safe, like nothing could hurt me anymore. It was a feeling I hadn't known in a long while, and it made me feel small and fragile. But when morning came, the fear crept back in. I woke up early, still scared, because I didn't really know who this man was. I wondered what he wanted from me, why he was helping me. My mind raced with questions, and my heart was still heavy with doubt. But for now, I was safe, and that was enough. The next morning, the man came to see me. This time, he introduced himself properly. My name is Kuti. I felt a little more at ease. I told him my name was Tabitha, and he smiled, saying it was a beautiful name. Then he asked me a question that made my heart skip a beat. "What brought you to that dark room last night?" he asked gently. I hesitated at first, but then I began to tell him my story. I told him about the fire that took my parents, about Auntie Bimpe's promises, and how everything had gone so wrong. But I kept one thing a secret. I didn't tell him about my life as a prostitute. I was too afraid. What if he found out and sent me away? I couldn't bear the thought of losing this small chance at a better life. But little did I know that keeping this secret would be what would make me cross paths with Auntie Bimpe again, and this time for the worse. As I spoke, I watched his face closely, trying to see if he would judge me, but he just listened, and I could see that he was moved by what I had been through. When I finished, he looked at me with kind eyes and said, "You've been through so much, Tabitha. No one should have to go through what you did." His words brought tears to my eyes, but I quickly blinked them away. Then, to my surprise, he offered me a job as a maid in his home. He explained that his wife and children weren't living with him in the city at that time, and he needed someone to help with the chores. I was so happy that I accepted without thinking twice. I didn't care about the work. I was just grateful for the chance to stay in a safe place. But that wasn't all. "You came to the city for an education, didn't you?" he asked. "I'll make sure you get it." Mr. Kuti promised to enroll me in school, which was the reason I had come to the city in the first place. When he said that, I felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I was so overjoyed that I jumped up and hugged him, feeling hope fill my heart for the first time in a long while. I finally felt like my life was starting to turn around, like maybe things would get better from now on. But deep down, I didn't realize that keeping my past a secret would cause problems later on. For now, though, I was just happy to have a new beginning. The next day, I woke up early, even before the sun had fully risen. I wanted to show Mr. Kuti that I was grateful for everything he was doing for me. I quickly completed all the house chores, sweeping, mopping, and making sure everything was spotless before Mr. Kuti even woke up. When he came downstairs and saw the work I had done, he smiled and said, "You've done well, Tabitha." His words made me feel so proud. After breakfast, he told me to get ready, and I felt a flutter of excitement in my chest. He took me to a big school, the kind I had only ever dreamed of. The building was grand and beautiful, and as we walked through the gates, I could see bright, eager students all around. They were dressed in neat uniforms, their faces full of hope and excitement for the future.